Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Charlene Aaron. The unprecedented Ebola virus outbreak is moving faster than efforts to contain it, but there is some good news. Health workers say the deadly virus is unlikely to become a global pandemic. Meanwhile, an infected U.S. missionary is recovering at an Atlanta hospital. He's showing signs of improvement, while another prepares to return home. Gary Lane has more.
Health experts say Ebola isn't as great a risk on the global population as an influenza pandemic or SARS. The Ebola virus has been contained mostly to the West African countries of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. The disease is not airborne. The only way it spreads is through direct contact with an infected person's body fluids. Still, this is the most serious outbreak of Ebola ever seen. So far, more than 1,300 West Africans have contracted the disease. At least 729 have died from the virus. American missionary Dr. Kent Brantley is improving at Emory Hospital in Atlanta. He was flown home from Liberia over the weekend and surprised many by walking into the hospital. A second missionary, Nurse Nancy Wrightball, is expected to arrive at Emory on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Liberian Christians are gathering for a time they're calling sackcloth and ashes, asking God to halt the spread of Ebola in their country. 500 church leaders came together in the capital city of Monrovia for 3 days of fasting and prayer. Pastor Emery David of Triumphant Christian Church told us Liberian Christians are praying this week, trusting God for a miracle.
Well, we want this Ebola lifted. If it is an error, a sin that we have committed, we want God to forgive the church, the government, the nation, and heal the land.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
The Ebola virus will surely be on President Obama's agenda when he meets with 50 African leaders today. Topics at the unprecedented summit will also include regional security, building democracies, and business investment in Africa. The summit is seen as an attempt to build up the president's legacy on the African continent. White House officials say they won't be distracted by crises shaking the globe, including the Middle East, Russia and Ukraine, and Iraq. Toxic tap water is forcing hundreds of thousands of residents in Toledo, Ohio, to use bottled water to drink and bathe. City officials warned residents Saturday not to use water from their taps after a treatment plant discovered high levels of toxins. The toxins came from a huge algae bloom in Lake Erie and can cause liver and nervous system damage and trigger vomiting and numbness. Residents were warned not to drink the water, brush their teeth, shower, prepare food, or wash dishes in it. People are using bottled water, and the city is distributing water in tankers. Many businesses in the city closed, and hospitals canceled surgeries and moved patients because of the threat of contaminated equipment.
Right now, I'm grilling on the porch here on my grill. Brushing teeth, we use 1 bottle of water, everybody. We share it.
Officials say the toxin levels in Lake Erie appear to be dropping, but more testing is needed before the water can be declared safe. Israel is drawing down its ground operations in Gaza, but continues to hit targets from the air and sea. An early strike this morning took out a leader of the radical group Islamic Jihad. Meanwhile, Israel's prime minister suggested his nation is finding allies for a bigger battle, this one against Iran. CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has the news from Jerusalem.
Israel made a surprise move by pulling forces from parts of the Gaza Strip, while still vowing to respond against any Hamas attacks. But the most profound legacy of this military operation may be an emerging regional alliance to combat Iran. Netanyahu announced a new level of regional cooperation that he said would surprise many. He added it would be a very important asset to the state of Israel. It's a move that may indicate a major shift in the Middle East.
Perhaps for the first time in its history, Israel finds itself a kind of de facto member of one regional camp arrayed against another.
Middle East expert Jonathan Spire says this unprecedented alliance unites Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, and Israel to face their common enemy, Iran.
So there's a sense in which this emergent alliance is an alliance of countries associated or allied with the US, but which are nevertheless deeply disappointed or dismayed at the direction that US policy has taken on a number of Middle Eastern files, and perhaps most importantly on the issue of Iranian nuclear ambitions.
CBN News analyst John Waggy says Netanyahu and other regional players feel the U.S. and the West won't stop Iran's nuclear program. so they must be ready.
The bigger picture is Netanyahu cannot afford only to concentrate on this terrible problem with Hamas in Gaza. Hamas is small potatoes compared with Iran. He does have to deal with the threat because it's immediately threatening to the citizens of southern Israel especially, but he can't focus just on that. And he may need to make some regional cooperation with some allies like Egypt and potentially even Saudi Arabia in order to deal with the larger threats like the nuclear one from Iran.
Spire says this new regional alliance sees the U.S. aligning with the wrong people. One example came when Secretary of State John Kerry tried to broker a ceasefire with Qatar and Turkey, two states that financially support Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood.
It's bringing in the very forces that are supporting Hamas, the very forces that come from a similar ideology to Hamas, the very forces that are staunchly opposed to Israel and staunchly opposed to the Western interest and staunchly in favor of the Muslim Brotherhood.
With or without the U.S., it seems this potential alliance feels they may face Iran alone. Hamas may have attacked Israel, but it also may have helped bring a region together to face the Middle East's biggest threat, a nuclear Iran. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Rescue workers in China are digging through rubble looking for survivors after a 6.1 earthquake killed nearly 400 people Sunday. According to the country's official news agency, the quake brought down about 12,000 homes and injured more than 1,800 people living in the impoverished Ludian County. Rescuers were forced to travel on foot after the quake caused roads to cave in. Almost 30,000 people have been evacuated, and the death toll is expected to rise. Last November, Super Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines, claiming thousands of lives and causing massive destruction. CBN disaster relief teams were among the first on the ground to bring immediate help. Today, 9 months later, CBN teams are still there building houses and schools and helping survivors rebuild their lives. CBN Asia correspondent Lucille Talusan reports from Tacloban.
10-year-old Rodrigo looks forward to school every day because here, not only can he study, but he also gets a break from babysitting his younger siblings. His father regrets he was unable to save Rodrigo's mother and newborn brother when Typhoon Haiyan struck.
My wife just gave birth and she was too weak to evacuate. We were swept away by the raging flood waters. I was able to cling to a piece of wood, but she and our baby did not make it.
Their house demolished by the storm. They endured months of intense heat and monsoon flood waters living in a tent.
We had to stay on top of the bed because the water came in and flooded the floor. Because of this, my children easily got sick.
Rolando's family is among the more than 800,000 families left homeless by Haiyan. They stick it out in cramped bunkhouses and tents while waiting for the permanent houses that the government promised to build within 2 years. CBN responded to bring them more immediate relief. CBN Philippine Director Peter Kairos recently turned over additional houses to typhoon survivors in the affected areas. Rodrigo was there to receive his family's new home.
I like our new house. It's more fun to play inside because it is bigger and it's not hot.
Well, the help of CBN in Operation Base is so important for me because a home is one of the basic needs. So I feel this will really help uplift their how they feel and to remove even the bad memories of what happened to them, especially the children. So thank you so much for your commitment, for your love, and for your generosity.
Other organizations like All Hands and Pinoy Relief have also joined CBN in building more houses and much-needed classrooms in remote islands.
The island of Tubaba is only a 20-minute boat ride from the town proper. But sad to say, 8 months after Haiyan struck, all the schools in the area that were knocked down by the typhoon still remain untouched.
134 students of San Pedro Elementary School took shifts to use the only classroom left with a roof.
We were given tents, but the tents got blown down by strong winds and rain. We want our real classrooms back. We always prayed, Lord, please make them find us, because most of the help was given to the mainland. The islands were neglected.
Erlinda is overjoyed CBN found them. And with the help of Pinoy Relief, their school now has more classrooms.
It's answered prayer. Thank you very much. May the Lord bless you more as you help more people in need.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Tacloban, Philippines.
Miriam Ibrahim's husband says his family is healthy but very tired after finally arriving in the States. She'd been trapped in Sudan after being released from a Sudanese prison after a global outcry. Miriam and her family stopped in Philadelphia before traveling on to their home in New Hampshire. Wani thanked members of Congress, human rights groups, and other diplomats and lawyers who helped free his wife. Wani, Ibrahim, and their 2 children have joined his brother's family to begin their new life. Coming up, many Americans look forward to the day when they can finally retire. Some can't afford that luxury. We'll tell you some of the mistakes people make when saving for their retirement. More than a third of Americans are falling behind on their debts, so far behind that those debts are being reported to collection agencies. Those are the findings from a study by the Urban Institute. The debts include credit cards, hospital bills, mortgages, auto loans, student loans, even cell phone bills, gym memberships, and more. And one reason why people's incomes haven't been going up much in recent years. Well, when it comes to retirement, Americans are not prepared. Experts say almost half of us won't have enough money to live on. We sent Heather Sells to find out how you can avoid common mistakes and make sure you're saving enough.
For many Americans, retirement savings are not a reality, and one big reason is our society promotes spending, instant gratification.
We're absolutely encouraged to spend rather than save. There are encouragements in the tax code, there are encouragements on the TV every night.
Nevin Adams oversees the Retirement Confidence Survey, a fixture for 24 years. The good news, about 2/3 of Americans save for retirement. The bad news, those who save don't usually save enough.
We have estimated that about 53% of Americans will have enough. We will not run short of money in retirement. Of course, that means that 47% stand, some decent chance of running short of money in retirement.
The retirement survey reveals some of the biggest savings mistakes that people make. They include simply not saving and not saving enough. Financial advisor Robin Toll says many people lack an overall plan.
People spend more time planning their next vacation than they do retirement.
Another common mistake, not knowing how much you need to save. Adams thinks for many people, the fear of needing a huge amount for retirement prevents them from even figuring out that number.
I think they're afraid to know what that answer is. And the reality is, for a lot of people, the answer is probably not as bad as you think it is.
ChooseToSave.com has just one of the growing online retirement calculators that helps you quickly figure out a course of action. From the start of their marriage, Amanda and Eddie Grizzard started saving. They used a financial planner to determine how much they needed. On top of their automatic monthly contributions, the Grizzards add to their savings when he gets overtime pay. And they try to live frugally.
She teases me because I take my lunch to work. And, I still brown bag it every day.
The Grizzards also have kept saving even during the bad times. That's another mistake, holding off saving when the markets are down. Toll says many developed that mindset during the recent recession.
I think people have been hesitant investing, saving, because they said, hey, I built this money up and then I lost it. But I encourage people, you look and say, since March of 2009, the stock market's gone up over 200%.
Another trap, overestimating how long you think you'll work.
The survey has shown very consistently over its 24-year history that workers consistently think they're going to work longer than retirees tell us they were actually able to work.
So follow these tips. Plan on living longer than you think you might as lifespans continue to grow. Save extra for health care because those costs are tough to estimate. Maximize your employer's 401k match and look into a Roth retirement account. And lastly, know why you are saving. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Up next, to stay at home or not to stay at home? That is the question behind what's become known as the mommy wars. See which side is gaining new ground when we come back. A new poll shows women are tired of the war on women rhetoric used by liberal politicians to win their votes. The poll conducted by the Colorado Women's Alliance indicates that 77% of women voters surveyed clearly see through the so-called Democrat war on women messaging strategy. And 67% of respondents agree women do not fear having their birth control taken away, but they do fear politicians using the issue as a political tactic to scare them into voting a certain way. The CWA says it released the data in the hope that leaders will refocus on the broad range of issues that are top of mind for women today. Well, it's a decision every mother faces. Does she stay home to raise the children or work outside the home and look for childcare? That question has sparked some heated debates called the Mommy Wars. Jennifer Wishon brings us that story.
Motherhood. Some call it the toughest job in the world.
I did it! Mama, look where I am!
And if raising children isn't enough, there's the added pressure of deciding whether or not to leave them with someone else to work outside the home. Just go to Google and search stay-at-home moms versus working moms, and you'll quickly see a range of heated discussions. In one thread on mommyish.com, Missy writes, "Seeing all these stay-at-home moms complain because they stay at home to watch a baby or a kid really annoys me. You are very lucky." Sherry replies, "I like how you assume that stay-at-home moms do no work at all. It's working moms like you that assume stay-at-home moms do nothing. That pisses me off." So why all the fuss over what should be a personal decision? Some of the moms I talk to say this isn't always an easy decision to make, and they just wish other moms could be a little more understanding. Meet Nicole Peterson. She's a fetal care nurse at the University of Maryland Medical Center. After she and her husband adopted 2 children from China, they felt she had to work for financial reasons.
I love my family and I love my job, and I'm actually very happy I have both. I feel like I've balanced things out.
But Peterson says it's not always easy, and one of the hardest parts is trying to fit in with the stay-at-home moms.
You're kind of not included in the clique when you can make a class picnic, and everybody knows everybody, and it's really hard to, not sit there by yourself with your child.
Peterson also wants a little more understanding if she can't make all of her children's school and sporting events.
I would love to be there and be at every science fair, but you can't. So I think there's a judgment on both ways, like, oh, who's that? And, oh, I think that's so-and-so's mom. She's never around. She's never here. So, which is tough.
Now meet Haley Dunstan from Northern Virginia. She stays home to raise her 2 children.
Well, she stays with us every day.
What do you think about that?
That's fun.
Dunstan says she always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and had no problem quitting her job once the kids were born. And the best part of her decision?
Every day being here and experience every little thing that they do, and seeing them grow and experience little things like this.
And Dunstan wants working moms to know that stay-at-home moms face unique challenges of their own. Rarely does a day go by when she has 5 minutes to herself.
I can understand where they think that, we just sit around all day and do nothing, but some days I don't even know what I did, but it goes by so quickly. There's stuff that I would want, but we can't afford, so being able to work would be nice, just to have my little money that I could do and go out.
Still, more moms are following Dunstan's lead. A 2012 study by the Pew Research Center shows the number of stay-at-home moms rose to 29%, reversing a long-term decline over the past 3 decades. Daryl Arrington with the Life Christian Counseling Network has ministered to couples for more than 10 years. He says moms often feel guilty, no matter what their decision.
Mothers have a vital role. We would not be here if it were not for mothers. And there's a lot of stress in that of itself. It's just terrible if they're also taking on the question of, am I doing the right thing?
Arrington says one of the biggest struggles for working moms is the guilt they feel over leaving their children to go to work. He recommends they turn to the Bible.
In the church, in recent days and recent decades, it was put forth that the completeness of a woman is found in the home, watching over her children. However, If we look at the scripture specifically in Proverbs 31, that ideal woman, that woman of high esteem, that woman is working.
On the other hand, Arrington says stay-at-home moms tend to feel guilty for not using their degrees or bringing home a paycheck. Whatever the case, he says moms need to stop the comparisons and rivalries.
We should be more cognizant and should be in pursuit, not necessarily of everyone doing what we do, but in pursuit of what our calling is, whether it's stay-at-home mother or working mother.
And whatever a mom's calling, Arrington suggests support groups of mothers in the same situation, because all moms should remember they share one of life's greatest blessings.
Dear Jesus, thank you for Mama.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Finally today, Operation Blessing is helping feed hungry children in Peru. 8-year-old Edson and his parents live in a very poor and remote community in Peru's highest mountains. Recently, Edson's family's potato crop became infested with worms, leaving them without their main source of food and income. Operation Blessing is making sure that Edson and other children in his community don't go hungry by providing daily meals through a feeding program at their school. Teams are also providing Pack H2O water backpacks that allow them to carry safe drinking water home. And that's going to do it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day and God bless.